Um, Welcome to Royal Oaks. Thank you for being here this afternoon. It's a little rainy outside, I know. My name is Chuck Tholen, and I am the Director of Development for the People of Faith Foundation here at Royal Oaks. That is Royal Oaks' charitable arm. Now, I know a lot of you are probably not familiar with Royal Oaks' charitable arm, but it's very important to our residents. Two things that seniors worry about as they age. One, am I going to be able to stay healthy? Two, am I going to have enough money to survive? When you move into Royal Oaks, we aid you with that first worry. We take care of that. We help you stay healthier. The second worry, that's when the foundation kicks in. We eliminate that second worry for you because our primary mission at the foundation is to provide benevolent funds to any resident. Ooh,
Sorry, I
that's
something.
okay.
Yeah.
To provide benevolent funds to any resident who simply outlives their resources. The foundation kicks in and does that. Now, our secondary mission in that is to also provide benefits, programs, projects that enhance the lives of both our residents and staff. But the primary mission really for you folks here today is that you are covered in that. We eliminate that worry for you. All right, before I get into before I get into introductions, a couple of housekeeping notes. If you need to use the restroom, it's right out those doors, down the hall to the right. It's the last door on the right. Also, if you have one of these, which we all do, could you please put it into a mode that does not make noise? We have had everything from a jet engine to a duck quacking. All right, the quacking was my phone, so I learned real quick. For the introductions, we have several Royal Oak residents here today. And just kind of raise your hand when I call out. We have Chris and Martha Thompson. They're in the back there. We have, is Don Armstrong here? I think he's on his way. Jerry and Marlene Johnson, they here? I think they're also on their way. Oh, there you are. Leo and Carol Croto, there they are in the back. We have Diana Greatinger. Diana is in the back. Diana is actually a director on our foundation board. So if you have questions, she or I can answer it. And then finally, for our resident ambassadors, we have Dave and Janice Daniel. So they're right there. Janice is back there. Janice is actually the president of the foundation board of directors. So you have the brain trust, I guess, if you will, here. Also, I want to introduce a very special guest that's here with us today as part of our leadership team. We have Kendra Eberhardt in the back. She is our Chief Executive Officer and President at Royal Oaks. So that's kind of nice that she's here today. And then finally, the marketing team, sales and marketing team. We have Carrie Dixon, who is the Director of Sales and Marketing. Carrie's way in the back over there. We have Irasima, which most of you have met. She was at the table out front. She's also in the back. We have Heather. Where's Heather at? Heather's in the back as well. She is a move-in specialist and residency counselor. And then our other residency counselors, we have Julianne. There's Julianne in the back. Cheryl. Where's Cheryl? She may still be outside. And Sherry. And then finally, our last residency counselor is who I'm going to turn the mic over to, and that is Carrie Lopez. And she's going to tell you really quickly a little bit about Royal Oaks and kind of the history behind it. So, Carrie?
Thank you, Chuck. So, welcome. I just want to take a few minutes of your time, but I know you're not here to see me. You're here to see Matt Paxton. So, I just want to find out how many of you are here at Royal Oaks for the very first time. Nice try. Some of you have raised your hands and it was not correct, but those of you that are here for the very first time, welcome. It's exciting to see so many new people here. Hopefully you will get a flavor of what Royal Oaks is all about. This is an amazing community. We have been here for 42 years. And I'm just going to share a little bit about what it is that we do, and hopefully you will have see a little bit of what we do and have enough interest to come back and find out more. We are a not-for-profit. We were started right here on this property 42 years ago as a not-for-profit, non-denominational organization. Chuck told you a little bit about our foundation, and one of the things that I want to share with you is that when our residents come in here, we make a promise to them that if they happen to outlive their resources due to no fault of their own, they don't have to, A, go to their family for help. They don't have to, B, go to the government for assistance. How many of you are a little concerned about what's going on out in the world right now? A little frightening, right? You don't have to worry about that. But see, you do not have to worry about going out and seeing all those movers out in the hallway in the twilight of your life. You would be our guest for the rest of your life. So it gives you that peace of mind of not having to move. Our foundation takes care of our residents for the rest of your life. And that's what this is all about. We are a life plan community. Residents come in here in independent living and live a fabulous, exciting, fun life. And then as the aging process happens, which unfortunately it happens, we have assisted living, memory care, and complete supportive living right here on campus. So why did we invite Mr. Paxton here on campus? I've been doing this job for a while, and one of the things that I hear, there's a couple things I hear all the time. One I hear is, I'm not ready for that. That might be good for my neighbor next door, but it's not good for me. The other thing I hear all the time is when somebody moves in is, oh, I wish I would have done this 5 years ago. What is it that Mr. Daniels say? Janice, where's Dave at? Dave, there you are. Dave Daniels, we say this all the time. Dave Daniels says it's better to be 5 years too early than 5 minutes too late. And that is so true. But then the other thing I hear all the time is, what am I going to do with my stuff, right? What am I going to do with my stuff? So there is an emotional attachment with that stuff. So we are going to have the opportunity to hear from Mr. Paxton about that element. I hope you have an opportunity to come back, learn about what it is that we do here so that you can have the fun that our residents have here. This is a great community. I invite you to come next week and learn more about what it is that we do here. Thank you for attending, and I'll turn it back over to Matt Paxton, and he will share with you what we have.
All right, can you guys hear me all right in the back? You got me in the back. Okay, welcome everybody. Good afternoon. All right, I like it. That's a lively afternoon. Usually people fall asleep in the afternoon. If you fall asleep, you owe me $5, and I will collect. All right, if you don't know who I am, I'm on a bunch of TV shows. I help people deal with their stuff. I was on that show called Hoarders for 15 years. I cleaned a lot of houses. A lot of houses. I got a new show on Discovery now called Filthy Fortunes, where I'm still cleaning a lot of houses. I'm just selling all the stuff. We'll talk about that later. What's the stuff worth? I think my story is probably the most important, how I got into this. When I was 24, my dad, my stepdad, both my grandfathers passed away. All four of them. And I had to clean out. You know what? Let me skip to that. Oh, I wrote a really awesome book, Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff. And I think if you sign up for a tour here and you show up for the tour, they'll give you a signed copy of my book. But it's everything I've learned in my 25 years. All right. So when I was 24, my dad, my stepdad, both my grandfathers, all four of them passed away in 1 year. And I had to clean out their houses. And my grandfather had always told me, if something sucks, do it as a job, because other people will pay you to do it. It's a pretty good business plan. And he was right. 26 years later, I'm still doing it. What I found out was, though, I went all around the country that year cleaning out all four houses. And I didn't realize how much I would enjoy all the stories. I got to hang out with my grandmother and clean out the house. I got to hang out with my mom and clean out her house. I got to meet all of my dad's friends. I got to meet so many people and hear all these incredible stories. That's what hooked me, was the stories. I mean, this is a long time ago. I would listen to Prairie Home Companion on the radio on Saturdays. If that tells you how long ago it was a great show. Um, but it was all because of my dad. Right? Obviously, I'm a little younger here. Uh, this is my dad's chair. Anybody's dad have a chair? Right? We weren't allowed to sit in it. I could only sit in it when my dad was there. And I realized as I was giving this class the other day, even after my parents got divorced, somehow my mom had my dad's chair. She got the chair. And testament to my mom. But we would sit in that chair and wait for my dad every Friday night to come get us. I loved that chair. And then somehow later in life it made it to his house. And when he passed away, what did I want? I wanted the chair. And I kept the chair. Did I want the chair because it was leather or good wood or because it was an Eames? Actually a 1970 Eames. It's a nice chair. I wanted it because it was what? It was my dad's. Right? A lot of people want to know, what do I do? Well, I clean out houses, let's be honest. But I get to help families share their stories. And that's where I've really made the switch in the last 10 years. Is I really want to focus more on the stories. I can tell you 100 stories about that chair. I mean, I used to sit in that chair all the time with my dad. And later in life, I'd sit in that chair. We would watch Mike Tyson fight. We really got into boxing. We'd sit in my dad's cigar room, and I was 16, and I got to smoke a cigar with my dad, which I thought was really cool. Right? And then he died at 52 from smoking. So let's point that out. I'm 50 this year, by the way. And I realize now I'm almost as old as my dad was. So the memories and the emotions are getting a little bigger. Right? But I'm really lucky. I get to help people go through their stuff and start to share those stories. How many of you in the next 5 years have to go through your lifetime or your parents' lifetime of stuff in the next 5 years? Right? It's a lot. There's a lot of stories attached to the stuff. Right? And the stuff's interesting. When you hear me say the word stuff 1,000 times today, right? It holds the stories of the magnificent life that we've all lived. But it's also holding us back from moving forward. Right? Carrie just told us, everybody says, I don't know what to do with your stuff. I hear a lot of things. I hear, I'm ready to move, just got to go through my pictures really quick. Or just got to go through my china real quick. All right? That's it. And real quick becomes 5 years. And then I also hear, nobody wants my stuff. And I tried to name my book, Nobody Wants Your Stuff, but AARP would not let me do that. All right. I find a lot of stuff. This is cash. I still find a lot of cash. Now, I've been doing this 26 years. So when I started, you guys were the young daughters that hired me to clean your parents' house. And now I'm cleaning your house. When I started cleaning houses, I would ask, ma'am, what did you do during the war? That was my number one question. And I would hear some incredible stories. And now I ask, did you go to Woodstock? Those are two separate, very separate people, but both fascinating stories. Right? I used to find more cash than I do now, but we still find cash. If the only thing you learn today is shake every single book that you find in your house. And if your mom gave it to you, you better believe you better shake every single book, because you will find it. All right. I also find random stuff. What is this? Just yell it out. Campbell's soup. But it's signed by somebody. It's signed by Andy Warhol. So now it's not just a can of soup. I said, ma'am, who signed this? She goes, oh, Andy Warhol signed it. This was a house in New York City, or an apartment in New York City. This lady was the first female editor for Penguin, or for Random House Publishing. And in fact, she created those. Remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books from the 70s and 80s? She created those, but they made her publish them as a male because they didn't think people would buy those books from a female. That's how long she'd been working at Random House. I said, how in the world did you get Andy Warhol to sign this thing? She goes, oh, I used to go to Studio 54 with him with my boyfriend. Studio 54 was a very infamous bar in New York City in the 70s. And I said, well, who in the world did you date? And she goes, well, I dated Bob Marley for a little while. And it turns out everybody dated Bob Marley. But I didn't find that out unless I said, who signed this can of soup? The can of soup is what told me all these amazing, fascinating stories. She was just going to skip right by. We weren't even going to talk about that. We were hired by Random House because the original Babar manuscript was somewhere in her house. And they wanted it for their museum. And we found it. They said, find it and leave. As soon as you find it, leave. Well, we found it in the first 20 minutes. And so I told the guy to bury it in the back bedroom, and we didn't find it again until we finished the house. She was a really cool lady. All right, and sometimes we find stuff that is emotionally valuable, but maybe not financially valuable. Does everybody see what we're looking at here? The dining room. Who's struggling with the dining room? It's okay. It's hard. The dining room is an example of why we are stuck on our stuff. All right, let's dig into it real quick. By the way, this is my grandmother's dining room. This is the dining room I spent every holiday in. My mom had a dining room. I don't think I ever ate a meal at my mom's dining room table. I lived in her house, by the way, for 23 years. We always went to my grandmother's house every Sunday after church. We would have a family meal there every holiday, every graduation. Everything that we celebrated was celebrated at this table. All right. People don't know this. I was actually an economist before I did all of this. I worked for the Federal Reserve as an economist, and then I worked for Caesar's Palace Casinos as an economist. The second job was more fun than the first, as you can imagine. I like to study the economy of the U.S. I think it's fascinating. This is why we have the suburbs, believe it or not. All right, think about it. Our parents fought in the war, came back after the Depression. Then we went to the war, got houses on a GI Bill, moved out to the suburbs, created what is now the suburbs of every single city. And then they went to Sears and bought a bunch of stuff to fill that house. Sears sold everybody the same stuff. And then those people all died within the same 10 years, and they passed it on to their children. But this stuff is not just stuff. It's stuff that proves that they made it. They survived the Depression. They were the last kids of the Depression. It's proof that they survived the war. It's proof that they mattered. It's proof that they worked hard. It's proof that they created a family. It's proof that they were sometimes the first people to go to college and get an education. It's proof that they created a family that grew up to succeed. It's proof that they mattered. It's proof that they were here. Do we understand why it's hard to let go of this stuff? We had families here for 30, 40 years in this room. And then they call my generation, say, do you want this stuff? No. My grandmother was excited to see us fight over this stuff. She was ready for a rumble because she had decided who was going to get each piece. And she wanted to see us get angry and fight. I mean, she really loved this kind of drama. And she was really excited to see who got what. None of us want any of this stuff. All right? But we're going to get back to that. All right. People definitely have cool things. I think this is amazing. We talk about how much wealth is, well, before this week, there was a lot of wealth that was going to be transferred. Not sure anymore. But $3 trillion worth of stuff is being transferred right now to my generation, from your generation to my generation. Right? That's a lot of stuff. That's a whole lot of stuff. Right? And all this stuff is holding us back from living the life we want. Has anyone ever seen this cartoon? It sums up what we're doing. One day, this will all be yours. Now, it really depends which person you are in this cartoon. If you're on the left, one day this will all be yours. And if you're on the right, it's going to be all be. And the other fascinating part about this is you might be both. A lot of my clients right now are receiving their parents' stuff or their great aunt's stuff or someone in their family's stuff at the same time that they're trying to go through their stuff. A lot of times I go into a house and they'll be like, oh, that's my mom's stuff over there. That's my mother-in-law's stuff over there. Our stuff is buried underneath. My great aunt's stuff is up top. And my kids' adult children's stuff is actually the entire basement. And by the way, they're on their first house and their children are on their third house and in their 40s and they have kids. But for some reason, all of their adult children's stuff is also in the basement. All right. What have I learned over 20 years? We justify to keep everything. We justify it all. Right? We think we're going to need it. We think we might need it later. We think it was expensive. That one I'll agree. It was expensive. That's real. Right? We think it'll be worth a lot of money. It won't. We'll discuss that more for the most part. And we think our grandkids will want it someday. Let's talk about that real quick. Everyone thinks their kids don't want their stuff. It turns out they do. They just don't want that stuff. They don't want the stuff that you want them to want. Remember, we talked about families were made in that dining room, that your family time, your values, your ethics, your hard work, everything was taught in that room. I asked my kids, I have 7 kids, 6 boys, 1 girl. We are not Catholic or Mormon. That is always the question. We are neither. I just have a very pretty wife. And so we have 7 kids. Thank you. That's a joke, but boom. All right. What we found out is my kids wanted my paddle boards, my surfboards. That's what my kids wanted. I said, why? And they said, well, that's our favorite thing to do with you. Turns out I do a lot of individual paddleboarding with my kids. We do downriver paddleboarding. So we drive all day to the top of the river, then we float all the way down, then we drive all the way back, get the stuff. So it's an 8-hour day. I do it individually with my kids. I try to do it every weekend. It's a great time for me to get one-on-one time with my kids. My kids inform me that is where they get their family time. That is why they really enjoy spending time with me. So my kids wanted my paddle boards. My paddle boards are no different than my grandmother felt about her dining room furniture. Same thing, because we spent family time there. For any generation, their family time was created somewhere else. If you ask anyone else in my neighborhood, it's going to the lake house or going to the football game. It'd be the season tickets for University of Georgia football. Right? Whatever it is, it's where you spent time with your family. They still love you. They still want things that remind them of you. It's just different things than what you wanted. Right? So if it's really the only thing you learn today is that it's not that your kids don't want your stuff, they just don't want your dining room. They might want something else. Right? And we're going to teach you today, you're going to learn how to find out what they actually want. I'll tell you, when I started, fur coats was my nemesis. I'd get these fur coats in the 90s. These big, and they're like, they look like just dead possums, just like staring at you. And you couldn't get rid of them. Could not get rid of them. Couldn't sell them for $1, and nobody wanted to keep them. Well, now, that's the first place the granddaughters go. They want the fur coats. They want the minks. Right? Times change. Grandma's closet is one of the best-selling parts of a house now. Her vintage clothes from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they're just going for a lot of money. Because Grandma bought nice stuff. Grandma bought really nice stuff. And the granddaughters have been shopping at Shein online for $4 dresses. And they fall apart. And now they find a 50-year-old Poochie dress that's worth $300. And they can't believe it. All right. This is the one thing I've learned in 26 years. The main thing I've learned. We hold on to things because of the people and emotions attached to it. Period. I can sum up 50 years on Hoarders. Well, two things. Cats destroy your house. I'll tell you that right now. Whew. Not a big cat fan. And we hold on to people because of how much we loved them. That's why we hold on to the stuff. So much to the point that I changed the way I cleaned a hoarded house. I used to walk into a hoarded house and be like, oh, this place is filthy, it's gross. And we really used shame as a tool. Like that would actually, something that negative would work, right? It never does. We finally realized after 10 years, you go walk in and say, wow, you loved a lot of people. You had a really full life. Tell me about that life. That little change of strategy changed everything. She said, you're right, I did. Great, tell me about that. and we'd start to hear stories about her amazing full life. I had one hoarder. It was an unbelievable house. She had thousands and thousands and thousands of books, to the point where she had the same book in like 10 different languages. And I was annoyed. I said, man, why do you have the same book? This is stupid. Why would you have the same book in 10 different languages? And she goes, well, sometimes poetry just sounds better in Russian. I realized I was not very smart, and she was. And I realized that's pretty amazing. She lived a full life. Turns out she was a translator at the UN in the 70s. She hand translated 10 different languages. Grammar, like the hard stuff. She was brilliant. She didn't think she had enough books, right? Because for her world, her life, what brought her happiness and joy was all those books. Right? As you can tell, I've changed my view on stuff over the years. Right? By the way, those of you that are here that came to want me to tell your partner that you have too many books, I'm sorry. That's not going to happen. Right? All right. We hold on to our stuff because we love those people and those memories, period. Right? So I want to make sure everybody gives themselves a little bit of, let go of the guilt. You guys come from a very guilty generation. You guys carry guilt. 55 and up carries guilt. 55 and under, trust me, we don't. We don't even think twice about it. Doesn't bother us at all. Right? But this is why you hold on to stuff, because you had awesome, strong families. It's actually a celebration. Right? So give yourself a little bit of peace here. Right? But what is it doing? It's holding you from moving forward. Okay? All right. How do we let go? We're going to tell stories. If you heard me tell a lot of stories already, we're going to tell a ton of stories. Telling the stories is the best way to let go of your stuff. And I'm going to show you why. All right. This is a very young me. I didn't realize how young that picture is. This is my great aunt. It's my great aunt BB. She looks like a great aunt, doesn't she? Alma was her name. I don't know why we called her BB, but we did. We called her BB her entire life. And this is my grandmother, Anne. She just died this year, 97. Awesome lady. I wrote this first step for them. And by the way, this is summarizing my book very fast. We're doing 5 top steps from my book. How to get you out of your house as quickly as possible. Right? Number 1 is you got to know where you're going, believe it or not. My grandmother, what was the man in the back, red shirt standing up? What's your name? Dave. Dave said better to be 5 years early than 5 minutes late. My grandmother lived by that. Right? My grandmother moved into her first community at 65, which back then was very young, because only old crippled people moved into senior living. They were called facilities back then. We're not allowed to use that word. It's a community. Right? She moved in very early. I think much like Dave, she didn't regret it at all. She had a blast. She loved it. She lived in the same community for 32 years. She lived everywhere from independent all the way to memory care and full assisted. Right? She wanted to use every dollar. She realized that she actually did stretch it, and she got on to the she said around 93 she thought she was living for free, so she was happy that she had used all the money she gave them. Right? She went early, and she went early because she really didn't want to be a drain on us, which was ridiculous, but she didn't want to be a drain on everybody else, and she really, truly just wanted to have a good life. Right? She chose to go early. BB did not. She fought it, she fought it, she fought it, she fought it, and then when it was time, medically, for her to go somewhere, she only had one option to go. And it was not something she wanted to do. It was not where she wanted to go. But she didn't have a choice because she waited too long. Now, I'm going to tell you the tips of how to get through this decision. I'm not going to pretend that this is an easy decision. I wouldn't even know what it's like to make that decision. That being said, if you're going to know where you're going, and I always say this, like, you can't pack for vacation if you don't know where you're going. Is it snowing or is it sunny? What am I wearing? What am I packing? Same thing for housing at this age. You've got to make the decision. Most families call me, they're like, we're ready to downsize. We're ready to start. Everybody's here for the holiday weekend. It's Thanksgiving. We're going to clean this house out. All right? By the way, show of hands, how many of you have lived in your house more than 10 years? How many 20 years? How many 30 years? Right? So 15 to 20 years is the average number in this room. Some people over. Right? Is it fair to think it took you 20 years to fill the house? Are you going to empty it in a 3-day holiday weekend? No. It took 20 plus years. On the East Coast, that number is 50, by the way. When I do this class on the East Coast, 50 years. It's crazy to me. 35 to 50, how long they've been there. Right? It's going to take longer than a few days because you created a family there. Right? So then I ask people, what's your why? Why are you moving? Is it better food? Is it better health care? Is it to have more friends, to get away from isolation, to be closer to grandkids? What is your motivation? What is your why? Right? For me, my goal in life is to be a grandpa because none of my kids have a grandfather. They all passed away. So everything I do, I want to be a grandfather. And I have a little piece of paper that says grandpa, and I put it on my wall at the office. I have it on my wall at my house. I have it on my mirror where I brush my teeth. My kids have started to have fun with it. They heard me giving this speech one day. And the other day, I went in to get some ice cream. And what did I see? A little Post-it note on the ice cream. What did it say? Grandpa, in my son's handwriting. Because I said something to my kid. I said, I do, and I explained it to him. I want to be a grandpa. And he goes, well, if you want to be a grandpa, why do you eat all that food that you know is so bad for you? He's not wrong. A couple weeks ago, I went into the Cheez-It box because I love Cheez-Its. What did I felt it right away. I felt a piece of paper the size of a Post-it note. I opened it up. Grandpa. Right? That is my why. My kids have had fun with it. They put it everywhere. And what does that keep me from doing? It actually keeps me healthy. Obviously, it doesn't fully keep me from eating, but it does keep me healthy. Right? It keeps me thinking about it. It keeps me from quitting. You see where I'm going with this? Downsizing is the easiest thing to quit. All you have to do is shut the guest room bedroom door. That's it. Or just walk away. It's very easy to quit. Exercise and downsizing are the two easiest things to quit. Right? When you know your why, that is going to keep you from quitting. And I actually want you to put it on your wall. What is your reason? That will keep you honest. Right? Most of these tips are really just to keep you from quitting. Because this is hard. We know it's hard because we're thinking about the people that we love that are no longer here. Of course it's hard. I don't want to go through my dad's stuff. I wear my dad's ring every day. This is my dad's ring. He gave it to me the night he died. I wear it every single day. And it makes me cry probably once a week still. My dad's been gone longer than he was alive in my life. Right? But it still makes me sad. So I see why we don't want to go through our stuff, because it's hard memories. Right? All right. Don't let not knowing where you're going keep you back from moving forward. All right. Do we see where we're going with this? Put your why on a piece of paper. Keep you focused. All right. Number 2, I want you to start small, really small. If you start too big, you're not going to be able to tackle it. All right. We already talked. It took us 15 years in this room, average of 15 years to fill up a house. We're not going to empty it in 3 days. Right. I want you to start so small tonight, 10 minutes. That's it. 10 minutes. What could I do in 10 minutes, Matt? You can go through 15 pictures. Anybody got pictures left over from the 90s? I know you do. You got shoe boxes full of them. By the way, an inch thick of pictures is 100 pictures. So a shoebox is 1,000 pictures. How many shoe boxes do you have? Tens of thousands. That doesn't count all the little thumb drives we have from all the cell phones that we don't use anymore. All the slides. Don't even get me started on the slide carousels. All right? Put on my butterfly jacket and go click through some slides. I love it. All right? We find them in every house. Every single house. All right? I also like to go through the junk drawer. It's in your kitchen. It's that top left drawer. It's got rubber bands, pens that don't work anymore, and a Bed Bath & Beyond coupon that says 20% off. You know what I'm saying? Who knows what I'm talking about? We all have them. All right? I've cleaned all these houses. By the way, they're not only expired, that store is bankrupt. It went out of business. You can throw that away. If you go home tonight, that's the one thing you can start with, okay? Get rid of the Bed Bath & Beyond. And someone will tell you it's coming back. I heard someone bought the website. I don't care. Throw it away. Right? I want you to start really, really small. And I don't want you to start in an emotional room. If you're a widow, don't start with your husband's clothes. There's no way you're going to succeed. You're going to quit. Start somewhere easy. Right? Start with your ex-husband's stuff. Okay? That's real simple. Throw that away. It'll probably feel pretty good. All right? We're going to start small. And the whole point of this is to prove to yourself that you can. That's it. It's not about what you got done. It's that you can get something done. Right? If you're here with a partner, let me stress this. It's easier to downsize on your own than it is with another person living in the house. Because what happens is, this is natural in any relationship, one of you wants to focus on what you did accomplish, and the other one wants to focus on what you have not yet accomplished. So we say, look, we cleaned for 15 minutes. Look what great job we did. And then the wife, I'm just going to say it's the wife says, yeah, but we didn't do all of this. We got to get all this done. If you want to get the house, let me come down here. I'm going to do this for you guys. All right? If you want to get the house clean, focus on what you did accomplish. You both have the same goal. Choosing negativity in this process does not work. It's not successful. So focus on what we got done, not on what we haven't gotten done. Everybody understand that? It's really important. Right? You thought I was going to tell you a bunch of tips on how to get rid of stuff. It's all communication, you guys. It's all communication and mindset. Because this is a very easy thing to quit. All right, step number 3, we're going to focus on our legacy. What matters to you? Right? I created a thing called a legacy list. I actually had a TV show on PBS called Legacy List, if you ever saw it. The Legacy List with Matt Paxton. What is a legacy list? A legacy list is a list of the top 5 things that matter most in your house. If your house burnt down today, what 5 items would you take with you? And I used to ask this to my hoarders, and I called it a fire list. And I had said, okay, if your house catches on fire, what are you taking with you? I'd say, write it on a piece of paper. And they would write it down and say, oh, can I write it on the back? Yeah, definitely, write on the back. Write everything you'd want to take if the house caught on fire. Right? And they would have 100 things. And then I would take out a stopwatch, and I'd hit go. I said, you got 2 minutes. Your house is on fire. What are you taking? You need to know what matters most to you. All right, let's play this for fun right now. Just yell out. What would you take with you if you had 5 minutes to go? What would you grab? Jewelry. What'd you say? Important papers. Papers is always there. Photos, papers, money, jewelry. What about your partner? Anybody want to wake up your partner? No one ever says partner, ever. Pet is the other one everyone says. Pets. All right. Guns. Boy, we're in Arizona, aren't we? Man. Woo. Hell yeah, Arizona. I'm from Atlanta, so I live in a different place. All right. If you create this legacy list, I promise you, it'll help prioritize what's most important in your life. This item right here is a picture of my grandparents. Right? By the way, the legacy is really more about, it's rarely about yourself, it's about the loved ones before you. That typically tends to be what it is. And what I found is, a lot of times our next generation doesn't even know those stories. They know some of the story, but they don't know all the story. Right? So the power is the story. That's what the legacy is, right? The item is not the story. The item is not the legacy. It's the story that matters. This picture right here is my grandparents. They lived in Oklahoma most of their lives. They were farmers in Oklahoma. He worked on an oil rig somewhere. I don't know where. Something in oil. May not have been an oil rig. I don't know where he worked. But he did something in oil. That's all I ever knew. Worked for Phillips. They would go to Colorado fishing every summer for 2 weeks. This is right on the northern, right below Wyoming, little Jackson County. And they would go to this store to get worms. And the story goes, my grandmother always goes, I knew something was up. He was inside like 10 minutes longer than normal. And he came out and he said, we're moving here. I bought the store. And she said, okay. And they did, and they lived there for 40 more years, 30 more years. This is the day, about 10 minutes later, this is the picture they took. And from this moment forward, every person in that family, every child that has been born, generation after generation, every one of us has become an entrepreneur. Every single one of us. Because they bought the store. I never had I had a real job for 6 months, and I didn't do very well. I didn't, because that's all I knew was being an entrepreneur. I'd go work there in the summer. I'd work in the country store. That's all I knew. I tried it at the government. It was horrible. Couldn't do the job thing. Couldn't do it. I worry about I don't think my kids will ever be able to really have a real job, because they've all worked for me in the summer on my entrepreneurship. But it's all because of this picture. So I love my grandparents' story. I love this picture. It hangs up in my office. What would happen if I lost that picture? You got a copy of it now, because they're going to email you this deck if you want it, right? I don't need that picture for that story, because I tell that story every week. If you tell the story, you don't even need the item. Stories live on forever. Items eventually disintegrate. I asked all my clients last year, 160 clients. I said, what's your biggest fear in your stuff? And the number one answer was they were afraid that their parents would be forgotten. And then they were afraid that they would be forgotten. Let me assure you, if you share the stories, you will not be forgotten. All right? This is this is number one on my legacy list. This is a cookbook that my mother made for me after all the men died in my family. My mom went around and she wrote down every recipe from all the grandmothers, great-grandmothers, and all the women at my church that helped raise me growing up. There's 6 recipes for deviled eggs in this book. I didn't know if that joke would do well here. I'm glad. All right. This is my grandmother's apricot pies right here, okay? This is what I used to sit with my grandmother in her kitchen making these little apricot pies. I thought only my grandmother made those until I got older in life. This was a really big deal for me. My grandparents, they were basically homesteaders. They had that little country store, but they ended up buying an old burned down church, and then they went into the woods and pulled the lumber, and they built that house by hand. Everything. They built that house from top to bottom with their own hands. And my grandfather would break broncos on the side on the weekends to make out he would tame wild horses. And when he died, I found out why he did it. They lived in a pretty much a barter society where they lived. They didn't really do cash. My grandma did vegetables, someone else did eggs, somebody else did rabbits. Like, everybody had a thing, and they traded. It's pretty awesome, actually. I didn't realize as a kid that was so weird. But my grandpa would break a bronco for $20, and he would give each of us $20 for Christmas. And I didn't know that till after he died. I just would sit there on the fence watching my grandfather get thrown off a horse 3 days in a row. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was really cool. All right? Now, fast forward. Everybody dies. My mom goes out and makes this cookbook with all these recipes, and it's in my mom's handwriting. That's my mom's handwriting. You ever found a picture? You ever found something from someone you love with their handwriting? It feels good, doesn't it? It feels so good. You feel at home again. You feel familiar again. Right? That's why we go through this stuff, for those feelings and those opportunities. Now, fast forward 20 years later, I married a lady in Atlanta that has I now have 4 Korean-born stepchildren. And the first Thanksgiving morning, I'm sitting there going through making my grandmother's apricot pies, telling them stories about the cowboys that raised me. I had no clue the work that my mom did 20 years before would give me the opportunity to bond with my new Korean stepchildren that I didn't know I would have an opportunity to bond with or not. And now every Thanksgiving, we make these apricot pies. And they want me to tell stories about my grandparents. That is a legacy list item. And everybody has one. Everybody. I'm a good storyteller. That's what I do for a living. I'm a really good storyteller. You may not be, but you all have legacy list items. You all have incredible people that raised you. You all have incredible experiences. This is my favorite one. You got to tell the stories or it doesn't matter. If you make your legacy list and you don't share the stories, who cares? Because nobody heard them. All right, you've got to share them. All right, we'll come back to this. This is Miss Lennis, my favorite client ever. We found this picture. We have a thing in our industry called hot grandma. You heard it right. Hot grandma is what we call it. You always find a picture of the client when she was probably 18, wearing a dress that was too short, usually smoking a cigarette, looking quite attractive, I'm not going to lie. You always find it, and we hang it, we hold on to it in the back of the house because you need to bring it to grandma when she's having a rough day. Cleanouts are not always easy. You don't want to waste all the good stuff in the first 10 minutes. So you hold items that are of value in the back. Grandma was having a rough night, and it's a whole little dance. You bring the picture out, you say, "Oh, who's this? She's beautiful." And she goes, "Oh, that's me." So, "Oh, you don't say." And you do this whole dumb little dance, right? And she loves it. Let me tell you that right now. She loves it. I've been doing this 25 years. It works every time, right? So we were having a rough night. It was me, Guy Kalen that works for me, and then it was the granddaughter who was in her 20s, the mom in her 40s, Miss Lennis, late 60s. Or it might have been late 70s. Might be wrong 10 years. She's probably in her late 70s at this point. But we bring this picture. "Who's this? She's beautiful." "Oh, that's me." "Oh, you don't say." And then the granddaughter says, "Who's that?" "That's not Grandpa." And not Grandpa is the key part of this story. Right? She goes, "Oh, that's Armando." She said it with that twang. She goes, "He was my lover." And then she went to the next picture. And we're like, no, go back. We want to learn more about Armando. She goes, "Well, that summer," she goes, "the war was still on." She goes, "I was teaching at MIT. I taught art history. Armando taught Spanish." She goes, "We had a torrid love affair. And then he moved away the next year. And then the war ended. And I met your grandfather when he came home." And we're all just like, and the granddaughter goes, "You taught at MIT?" She goes, "Yeah, I was the first female adjunct professor at MIT." Amazing, right? If you don't tell the story about Armando, you don't find out that Grandma was the first female adjunct professor at MIT. You got to tell the stories. Right? By the way, we found that dress in the attic. Guess who wanted the dress? The granddaughter. Right? We did find out, she went on Facebook. This is her, by the way, later. She refused to take that fur jacket off the entire clean out. She was amazing. I love her. She did later tell us that she went online and found Armando. He's still alive in Spain and still quite handsome. And she said, "That's what Facebook is for, to find your ex-boyfriends, just so you know." And I was like, good to know. Good to know. All right, you got to share the stories. I told you earlier, your grandkids actually do want your stuff. They just don't want that stuff. What do they want? They want this stuff. But they got to hear the stories to know it. All right, have I made my point on legacy list? This is something you can do tonight, you guys. Go home, write the top 5 items that matter to you most, and then share those stories. Sharing the story is the key. All right. How do we tell the stories? I'll go through this real quick. Don't get stuck on the details. You guys are a generation that you were really raised at the peak of academia, so you were taught really how to kind of be the best at everything academically, and you have this guilt that you carry with you if you're not the best. Storytelling is not the time to carry that guilt. Just whatever you remember. It was hot that day. Oh, I think it snowed that week. There was a storm. There was I think it was like it was like Katrina or something. You don't even know the details, but the more you tell the story, the more you start to remember. Your generation tries to get it perfect and then write it down. Don't worry about being perfect. Just write down what you remember. Start telling your stories. What was it? How'd you get there? Who was with you? As simple as you can be. Right? And start to share the story. You'll be amazed what comes out. This is super important to me. Memories start more memories. I'm going to say it again. Memories start more memories. I can still hear what on my grandparents' country store, what it sounded like when a cowboy would walk across that wooden floor with the boots. I can tell you what the hay smelled like when it rained after it was cut. Rain is water that falls out of the skies, in case you guys don't know that. Okay? In the rest of the world, it rains all the time. Okay? Somebody told me today, someone told me about desert rain here today. I didn't know that was a unique smell when it rains in the desert. Okay? So you're all raising you're all nodding. Anyone else in the United States would think that's fascinating, didn't even know that was a thing. Right? And there will probably be a deodorant called Desert Rain tomorrow, by the way. Right? But I promise you, you guys have unique stories that we don't have. Right? You got to get them down on paper. All right, if you're going to take a picture, this is what you want to take a picture of the most. These are story starters. If you don't know how to tell the story, you can take these pictures and share them with your friends. Also, they're going to email you this if you want. The sales team, where are we back here? Where are they? Anybody? They will email you this entire copy if you guys want it, okay? I probably should have told you that earlier so you don't have to spend writing notes the whole time. You're going to notice these story starters. It starts real simple. This is where I want you to share this with a friend. A lot of people come to me and say, Matt, this is awesome, but you got 7 kids. You got people that want to hear your stories, which is not true, by the way. They're done. They've heard them all. Let's say I'm the last of the line. I got no kids. I'm the last one in my family. Nobody wants to hear my stories. Nobody wants to hear my stuff. That's not true. You've got to get out there and share your stories. I promise you, I've been going to communities like this all around the country, and we do an adult show and tell night where people come up on a stage just like this. The residents fill the room, and people bring up one item and they tell the story. You'd be amazed the amazing stories that come in. Now, you got to limit it to 3 minutes or it gets out of hand. But I promise you, it's a fascinating night. You get to learn about your residents, your neighbors. You learn so much. How many of you have ever heard someone say, if I can do anything to help you, just let me know? Everybody says that. Well, I want you to say, hey, bring a bottle of wine, come over, we're going to go through some pictures, and I'm going to tell you some stories. How many of you would go, if someone asked you to do that, how many of you would go? All day long. How many of you would be willing to ask somebody to come to your house and do that? No, that's weird. That's really weird. Right? I promise you, people want to hear it. Right? You've got to reach out and ask for it. Anything worth doing takes a little effort. Right? I'm going to ask 2 of these. First job, just yell it out. First job, what'd you do? Department store, babysitter. How much did you make? Just yell it out. 50 cents. 25 cents. $1.75. All right? The problem is I'm 49. I'll be 50 this year. I worked at McDonald's, and I only made $2 an hour. But that was in the 80s. $1.75. All right, first car. This is going to be a good one. There it is. VW. A lot of VWs. 49 Chevy. Oh, man, I bet that thing was fast. Chevy Super Sport. Holy cow. 69 Mustang. Anybody beat that? That's awesome. What? 69 Mach 1 Cobra. Holy cow. Girl. I love it. All right. See how these questions can be fun? All right. You see how these questions can create conversations real quick? All right. Just go through. My favorite one is not even on here. We did it at a senior living community. The senior living community asked, what is the most important invention that you saw in your lifetime? Computer, TV. What was it? Cell phone. Calculator. I mean, you think about what my clients have seen from the Depression. I mean, I had a client that was in Auschwitz. I mean, like early in my career. I saw her tattoo and we talked about it. All the way to now, right? You think about what you've seen. I remember one of my clients, I asked that question. She said, indoor bathroom for me, definitely. She goes, indoor bathroom was life-changing. What's yours? Yeah. Yeah. Electricity. That's a pretty yes, right? Electricity. I'd say that's important. One lady said bathrooms. One lady said hair curlers from West Virginia. She thought that was amazing. Airplane. Yeah, I mean, you think about even just the folks in this room, what you've seen. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty amazing, right? So, say it again. Polaroid camera, right? Yeah, I guess you're right. You guys had to chisel it on a stone, didn't you, when you were in high school? Yeah. Yeah, an instant photo. You think that's really amazing, you know? Guys, these questions will absolutely create incredible story starters. More importantly, it's something you can do with other people in your family, and it gets them going, all right? All right, we're going to race through this. Last step, number 5, donate, donate, donate. I cannot stress this enough. You've already chosen to get rid of it. You're either going to sell it or you're going to donate it. Don't let a few random dollars change your mind, all right? I can assure you, you will never be happy with the amount of money that it sells for. Ever. You will be happy with the amount of joy that it gives to someone else. Okay? If you're in this room, you can afford to donate it. I promise you. Okay? You got here. You can afford. And by the way, I make a living off of charging people like you to pay me to clean out your house. If you donate it, guess what? You don't have to pay me. So donate it, man. Donate it. All right? Change your mind from what if I need it later to what if someone else needs it now. All right? I promise you, you'll find someone that appreciates it more. All right. Quick decluttering mistakes we all make. Live in your reality, not your fantasy life. This is my closet before I moved. All right? Before I moved to Atlanta 4 years ago, over here, these are size 28 pants. These are 30s. These are 32s, all of these. I had 2 34s and then 3 36s. So I went from size 28 to size 36. Let's be honest, the 36s are a little tight. 30 pair of pants, 3 of them fit me. That means 10% fit me. That means 27 pair of pants did not fit me. But I'm keeping them because I'm going to start. I haven't worked out in 15 years, but I'm going to start tomorrow, so I need to hold on to those 28s. Right? Does anybody have anything like this in their home? Like your suits from the job you had 30 years ago. All right? We all have something like this. We can let go of some things. I'm using humor a lot because if you don't, this can get pretty depressing. All right? If you focus on what you did spend money-wise on these clothes, it gets very depressing. All right? And I get it, women. 15 years around, every fashion comes back in 15 years. I had one lady that she was confident. She was 90-something. She was confident her jean jackets would come back into style. I think she was 93. Don't quote me. I wrote this in the book. I said, ma'am, it's going to be 15 years before these come back into style. I go, you're 93. Mathematically, I don't know. And she goes, I respect what you're saying, but I'm keeping it. And I said, okay. All right. This includes clothing, workout equipment, the riding bicycle that you just put your jacket on. It includes skis, bikes, paintbrushes, all of your National Geographics that are bundled up in twine, all of your encyclopedias. I know. I can't even donate them anymore. Vinyl records I can still sell. We can sell vinyl records. All right. This includes all the board games that don't have all the pieces, all the puzzles that are missing half the pieces, and most importantly, all of those vases you've received flowers in, and you only use that vase the one time you received the flower in them. You can get rid of those things, okay? Live in your reality, not your fantasy life. All right, I'll leave this up here. Let me know when you've finished reading this. Anybody holding on to something because a dead person's going to be mad at you? Anyone? This is a tough one. If you're a woman, you are, I promise you, okay? So many of my clients are like, well, my mom would be furious. How old's your mom? She's been dead 20 years. I think she'd be okay with it, guys. I got to be honest. I just say this out loud to make you laugh at it, all right? It's ridiculous. You're saving stuff so someone that's no longer with us won't be mad at you. They loved you. That's why they gave it to you. They want you to move on and have a better life. Do what you want with it, all right? Maybe give it to someone that would appreciate it as much as your relative did. That's more important. There's a lot of stories there, but just please give it away to someone that'll value it, and if they don't want it, sell it. All right, if your kids don't want it, how do you find out if your kids don't want it? Ask them. And you're going to ask them, and they're going to say, I don't want it, Mom. And you're going to say, well, she's young. She doesn't know what she wants yet. I'm going to hold on to it a few more years. All right. If she says no twice, you're all laughing because you do it, right? That's why this is an important class to take together. All of you are doing the same thing, okay? Let go of the stuff that they don't want. It's usually a piece of furniture your mother made you take. You didn't want it, but she made you take it. So now you want your daughter to take it because your mom made you take it. Nobody, 3 generations, nobody wanted it, but it's still in our house, right? Let go of it. You don't need it, right? Communicate. Spite items, I can't stress spite items enough. Spite item is you keep the item just because you don't want your sister to have it. You don't actually want that item. You just don't want your sister in New Jersey to have it. It's usually pianos and grandfather clocks. And neither of you play the piano, by the way. This is, anybody know what this is? It's a cast iron or a Dutch oven. Yeah, they're super heavy. They're really nice. My first wife and I registered for one of these. It was a blue one when we got married. Neither one of us cooked, but it looked expensive. We were in the store. We were just scanning everything. Somebody bought it for us. We thought it was awesome. 10 years we were married. We never used it. Never used it once. When it time to get divorced, we agreed on everything except that item. We both wanted that item. I am happy to say I got the item. It was mine because I didn't want her to have it, right? So I kept it. 7 years later, my now wife heard this story in a presentation. She said, that's horrible. That's bad mojo. We don't want that. You got to give it back to your ex-wife. So me being me, I wrapped it up for Christmas, and I gave it to my ex-wife as a Christmas gift. And she opened it up, and she laughed. She said, I didn't want that. I just didn't want you to have it. So now we give it to each other each year for Christmas. And still no one has ever used this thing, all right? We're using humor a lot, but I promise you, this is, how many of you are the oldest adult daughter? We're almost done. We got about 3 minutes left. All right. Oldest adult daughter is usually the one that's in charge of. Look at how many hands are here, okay? Oldest adult daughter is usually in charge of all of this. You are the bigger person in the relationship. The oldest adult daughter always is, okay? Almost always. This is an opportunity. Downsizing is an opportunity for you to really change the course of your family's history. It's an opportunity for you to document the stories, get rid of some stuff, and actually move forward with your life. But most importantly, it's a chance to tell stories. I mean, did you think you would have as much fun as you've had today listening to all these stories? No one did. Right? Of course you didn't. Right? There's free food. That's why you came. Right? And this is an opportunity, and you're going to be people in your family that are going to try to bring it down with negativity. It's your job to say, no, we're not going to have negativity. We're going to keep it positive. Because this can be a life-changing, in a positive way, experience for everyone involved to share these stories and really plant a seed for future generations if you do it right. All right, last mistake. Buying more stuff to get rid of stuff makes no sense to me. You have enough boxes in your house. You've got TV boxes. You've got all the brown paper bags from the grocery store that went out of business 20 years ago. You double stack those. You can carry anything in those. All right. Don't buy more stuff to get rid of stuff. All right. Focus on your finish line. Start small. Create your legacy list. Can you guys do your legacy list this week? It's very doable, right? Tell those stories. Donate. I cannot stress on the donation, and drop that guilt. You guys are all free of your guilt, right? You're going to get in this process over the next couple weeks, and you're going to start to feel guilty. And I want you to say, that guy, that really handsome guy on stage said, get rid of the guilt. I don't need it. You are free of the guilt. Don't let it hold you back. There is somewhere, I can promise you, anyone here at Rolex, we want you to live where you want to live. We'd love you to check out here. It'd be awesome. But we want you to be happy wherever you go. Don't let your stuff hold you back from living. It's really silly, right? This is my dad and me on my dad's chair. This is me and my boy on my dad's chair. Now, he wanted me to tell you that we set that up. That wasn't natural, right? It's now a reading chair for my boys. My kids are not athletes. They're very academic. I don't know where they got it from. This is the reading chair. When they finish a book, they do the last chapter in this chair. And they sit there, and when they get to the last page, everybody comes around and we clap and we get excited, and he finishes the book, and they tell us about the book. And for my boys, that's a really exciting thing. Right? They didn't know my dad, they never met him, but they know all the stories. They know this chair is really important to me. Right? Now, what do you think they all want when I go? The chair. And now I got a real dilemma. How do I split that up over 6 boys? Well, I'm going to give it to my favorite kid, is what I'm going to do. All right? And I will reveal that the day that I die. Okay. All right. Please don't let your stuff hold you back. I cannot stress this enough. Very last story. I had a client that I helped move. Really bad situation. His wife passed. They had to move. They had a cash offer on the house. They had to move like a month after his wife passed. He was not interested in moving. He was very upset. And when we have a unique experience, we get to go through your whole life with you, and then we move you into your new community. And then when that door shuts, we don't know if we'll ever see you again or not. And we've gotten really close to the family. We get to meet everybody, and we get to know them. And this guy really became good friends with him. And we shut the door, and it was kind of like 50-50, man. I don't know if he's going to be okay or not. And we knew he was in a great place, but we left. 6 months later, we're moving a new guy, another woman into the community, and we see John. I said, John, man, how's it going? He goes, dude, it's awesome. He goes, I can sing and I can dance. He goes, and I can drive. He goes, life is good here. I have never had someone make me move them back home. The only thing people call me for is, I brought too much. Can you come pick up some of these things and donate them for me? And we're happy to do that, right? All right, go home. You can do it today. I don't know if we have time for Q&A. Hey, if you want to watch my show, Filthy Forge, anything you want to learn about me, just take a picture of that and your phone will get you to it. But the show is Filthy Fortunes. Did you learn anything today? I know you had fun, but did you learn anything today? Okay. You can do this. A much better life is ahead of you. Don't let this crap hold you back. Right? My son said to me the other day, he said, Dad, my 12-year-old, I read that the average male only lives to 77. Now, I don't know if that number's right or not. But he goes, might be high, actually. He goes, how does it feel to be in the last third of your life? I said, well, it felt great, honestly, until you put it that way. I think I'm just getting started. Like, I'm really just figuring life out now. And I said, buddy, it's good. He goes, it's got to be weird to think that every day you live is the best day of the rest of your life. And I thought, well, God, he might be right. Do you really want to spend the next 5 years going through slides on a carousel? I sure as hell don't. I want to go out and see the world. I want to meet my friends. I want to go eat good food. You guys worked way too hard to go through slides. It's just silly, right? I hope I'm not being rude. I hope I'm being inspirational. You guys have worked really, really hard. Go out and enjoy this life. I will be here for questions. I don't know how we are on time. Am I over? I think I'm probably over. You guys have any? I can answer any questions about stuff. Beanie Babies are not worth anything. That should answer half of the questions. All right. Yes, sir.
I really enjoyed your talk. This is the second time you were in Washington, D.C. about 10 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I remember you.
Wow.
I don't remember
I'm
me.
impressed. That's where I grew up, right below Washington, D.C.
Right.
Was it at Sunrise or at...
I forget.
Yeah, I'm
old.
impressed. Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Well, you've seen it progress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of those places out there. I just want to mention on donations, there's an organization that actually has a table out here that I've been giving to. They'll do a good job with your donations. It's called the West Valley Lutheran Thrift Store.
Yep.
And they do a wonderful, they get a good price and are respected, is well organized, and is a good place for things that have be gone for good use because they donate all their money to a number of societies, charitable organizations in West Valley. I recommend them.
Thank you. Here's my second on his. On donation, find a place that you truly care about their mission. Whatever you care about, because you'll want to give more. So I think you should. Whatever your passion is, go give to those people because they would love it. Any other questions, thoughts? Up front. You can just yell it. I'll repeat it. All right. What's a good place to sell high-end collectibles? Because your stuff's nice, nobody else, everything else is trash, right? Yeah. No, I'm kidding. We all think that, right? Yeah. So I sell anything smaller than a bread box. And if you know what a bread box is, you're in the right room, right? Anything smaller than a bread box, I sell it on a website called EBTH. EBTH. Everything but the house. EBTH. Guess what they sell? Everything but the house. Phenomenal site, started by a woman, 99. She started the site out of the back of her, back of her station wagon. It's .com, yeah, ebth.com. If you tend to buy a lot of things, do not go on ebth.com. Right? I just sold $60,000. Literally last week, we sold $60,000 worth of marbles on that site. Marbles. We sold $30,000 worth of salt shakers. I sold 18 guitars on there the other day. Here's the deal. I don't do in-home estate sales. I do not recommend that. That keeps it local. We already know historically everybody bought it from the same place. So if you're regionally, we're all dying within 5 years of each other. If you go into an estate sale, it's all the same stuff in different houses. So you want to get it online. You know how I sell all the really cool stuff in Alabama? I sell it in California. And I sell all the stuff in California in New York. And you do that by going to expert online auction houses. So I use EBTH. I use CT Bids. That's another one. CT, like California Trader Bids. EBTH is really my go-to, honestly. They sell the majority of my stuff. And what happens is you don't want one person to buy it. You want two people to want it. Because now you got an auction, right? And they bet against each other. I can't tell you. I mean, I bought my car, actually, on EBTH. 88 Wagoneer, anybody's interested. It's amazing. My wife would love me to sell it. Question in the back? Yes, ma'am.
What about jewelry? Do you recommend, like, we have a lot of jewelers here in town that say bring your gold, bring your, you know.
We buy gold. If it says we buy gold, you're going to get around 65% is what they're going to pay you on the gold value. Bargain, haggle that up to 80 to 85. They will do that. But silver, any of your silverware, if it's sterling silver, you're better off melting it at a We Buy Gold shop. Then you're not going to get any money for it as silver. People don't care about the silverware anymore. So if it's sterling, absolutely have it melted. I hate to tell you, yes, I tend to melt most of the jewelry that we find. Let the kids, grandkids, go through what you want. At the end of the day, gold's never been higher, and I don't see that changing for at least 4 years, I can assure you. I think gold is going to keep going up. Where I would really caution you is mom or grandma's costume jewelry is actually more valuable than you realize. There's real value in there. And if you sell your jewelry at auction, it will get bid up to just under whatever the gold melting value is. Because there's a lot of people out there that all they do is melt gold. So they'll go in and buy it at 80% knowing they can melt it at 90%, and they're just taking the spread. So if you list any jewelry online, it will get bid up to where it needs to be. What I think is really important about just do not sell it, out of your house by yourself with one person. You won't get a very good bid there. You're just going to have one buyer that comes in and buys it all. And my book literally goes through every process of this. But jewelry still does very well. Collectibles do very well. Yardrow does not. Hummels do not. Because everybody, it's the same thing as the dining room tables, honestly. Now, the thing is, the dining room tables won't sell at all. If you can sell a dining room table for $200, sell it. I hate to tell you, even if you spent 10 grand, you'd be lucky to get $200. Any brown furniture, good luck. Whatever. I mean, I'm going to charge you $200 to take it away. So if somebody pays you $200, that's actually a $400 swing. Okay? Huh? Cameras do very well. Absolutely. Old cameras do very, very well. Anything music does very, very well. Even vinyls do well. 8-tracks sell now. VHS tapes do not. Your tape do not. Old stereos, your old speakers, if you had a Martini on a speaker, that thing will sell. I'll tell you that right now. Your old speakers do really, really well. Your old, the hi-fis, all your old stereo equipment. Yeah. I would not donate. That's a donate situation. If you've got a bunch of speakers, that's worth calling a local auctioneer to see what they would do. The question with any local auctioneer is, do you have an online listing? Make sure that they will list it online. If they will not list it online, don't go with them. And then if they do go online, ask them how many people visit your website. And if it's not over 1 million, don't go there. Because you want to, and that's not a high number. You want a lot of people going. All right, any other thoughts? Yes, ma'am. Photographs. Next question. Yeah, no. Best way, yeah. I'll give you my quick sort. Yeah, scan them. You want to, on the pictures you want to scan, but you want to sort first because you're paying by the picture to scan it, or you're doing it yourself. So here's the super quick sorting on pictures. Get rid of your duplicates. All of us got duplicates in the 80s and the 90s. So get rid of the duplicates immediately. All right? Get rid of the generic landscapes with nobody in it. That's a beach. That's a mountain. Which mountain? I don't know. It's a green mountain. Right? Get rid of the generic landscapes, the duplicates. Believe it or not, get rid of the negatives. You haven't used them yet. You're not going to use them now. And then number 4, get rid of the pictures of the people you don't know or don't like. All right? Those 4 categories will get it knocked down in half. And then you think about scanning. I sort by person I'd want to have it. That's what I do. I honestly think you should get down to, believe it or not, 1 shoebox. Something that you can enjoy. Are you going to do that in a long holiday weekend? No. 10 minutes a night for the next 6 months. We have a long hot summer. Yeah, so do it when you're in night. Yeah, turn on the fan, man. Turn on the AC. Do it a half an hour a night where it's fun. And I will get buckets for family members, and I'll just sort it casually. I mean, set your, and that's also something you can do here when you've moved. You don't have to do that before you move. You do need to go through your garage and your attic. That's the hard. By the way, all the tools sell. The tools absolutely sell. Online, tools sell very well on Facebook Marketplace. I don't use Craigslist. I use an app called OfferUp. If you've got your dad's tools, holy cow, that's art, because some of those tools were created for a specific task. Get them online. I can't stress, if you can't do it online, have a friend come in and do it. Have a grandkid, give them 25%, let them take 25%, let them manage it. I promise you, the tool pretty much, even old tractors sell. You wouldn't believe what we put in scrap metal. We'll get a lot of money for scrap metal. And this is the other side, real quick. If this is feeling like too much, hire a professional. There's 2 in the hallway right here. There's 2 companies out here that can help you with this. 3. There's 3 companies out there. Let me meet you guys before I leave. There's 3 companies out there that can help you. Find the one, they'll all agree with me on this. Find the one that suits your personality the best, because you're going to get to know those people very, very well. They're going to be in your home. They're going to be with you. I had a lady one time, she said, "I don't think you're funny." And I said, "Well, then I'm going to give you your money back because you're going to hate me, because this is who I am. This is how I talk." And so I ended up finding her a very boring move manager that was going to suit her quite well. And turns out they were really happy together, right? So find someone that suits you well, because we all are very busy. We're good. We want you to find the right person to work with. So don't be afraid to call a professional, because they will let you do as much as you want to do, or they'll do as much as you want them to do. But we just want to help you at your pace. But if you know you've got to move quickly, call a professional. They're going to help you. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Okay, I'll repeat that. That's true. You're going to find that anywhere in the country. The auctioneer she met with said, absolutely, we'll sell whatever you want us to sell, but you have to accept whatever the last bid is. And I'll add on this, it might be $1. It might be $1. So if you're nervous, honestly, don't be afraid to take it to a better jeweler that will absolutely, even a high-end jeweler is going to scrap the metal for you. They'll give you value on that. You're going to hate this. For the most part, your jewelry, if you don't want to keep it, just melt it for the gold. You're going to get the most money that way. Yes, ma'am. I use a company called the Keys Guild. They're in Texas. I mail them everything. They pay us a very high rate. It's the Keys Guild. I go to FedEx. I insure it for what I think it's going at. And they've done very well. TheKeysGuild.com. Silver? Oh, yeah. And you'll see him on my show. He comes on my show all the time. Hey, I'll stick around for the rest, for as many questions if you guys want. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You want to
Yep.
wrap us up?
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. Thank you, Matt. Big hand for Matt there. I think everybody kind of learned a lot here. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We really appreciate it. If you want more information on Royal Oaks, the marketing team has a couple of lunch and learns coming up. They're going to go more into a deep dive of how Royal Oaks works and what you can learn about it. If you book a private tour with your residency counselor, you do get a signed copy of Matt's book. So that's there. Please stop past the vendors outside. There's a lot of great information out there. And if you don't know who your residency counselor is, there's a name under yours. That is the name of your residency counselor under your little badge. So you'll be able to figure it out. Again, thank you for coming. The valet is out those doors, down to the left and outside, because I know this is a big campus, so you get lost sometimes. So out to the left and outside. So thank you so much.